The radio crackled with static as Corporal James Mackenzie adjusted the frequency dial for the 100th time that morning. November 15th, 1944, somewhere in the Ardennes forest. The transmission he was about to intercept would change everything. Not just for his reconnaissance unit hidden in the tree line, but for an entire Panzer Convoy that had no idea death was listening to their every word. Mackenzie pressed the headphones tighter against his ears as a German voice cut through the interference, clear as daylight, coordinates, timing, route designations. The enemy was broadcasting their most classified movement orders on an unsecured channel, and they had no idea anyone was listening. What happened next would turn a routine intelligence gathering mission into the most devastating ambush of the Western Front. One radio operator's quick thinking was about to eliminate an entire armored division before they knew what hit them. For 3 days, Mackenzie's unit had been tracking German radio traffic from their concealed position overlooking the main supply route through the forest. Staff Sergeant William Torres commanded the 8-man reconnaissance team, but Mackenzie was their ears. Every German transmission, every coded message, every fragment of enemy communications passed through his equipment first. The 23-year-old from Chicago had learned German from his grandmother, a skill that made him invaluable to Army intelligence. What he heard that morning would prove that sometimes the most powerful weapons aren't tanks or artillery, but information intercepted at exactly the right moment. The transmission came through at 0847 hours. Mackenzie was monitoring standard Wehrmacht frequencies when he caught something that made his blood run cold. A German radio operator was broadcasting movement orders for Kampfgruppe Hoffmann, a reinforced panzer battalion moving to counter Allied advances near Luxembourg. The operator was new, nervous, and making every mistake in the book. He was transmitting in clear German instead of code. He was repeating coordinates multiple times, and most critically, he was providing detailed timing for the entire convoy's route through the forest. Mackenzie scribbled frantically as the information poured through his headphones. 68 vehicles, including 12 Panzer IV tanks, 8 assault guns, and supporting infantry. Departure time, 1100 hours. Route designation, Forest Road, Charlie through the Ardennes. Expected arrival at forward positions, 1400 hours. The German operator even provided checkpoint timings, fuel stops, and contingency routes if the main road was blocked. It was an intelligence windfall that seemed too good to be true. Sergeant Torres crawled over to Mackenzie's position as the radio operator finished writing. The team leader's face was grim as he studied the intercept. Torres had been fighting since D-Day, had seen what German armor could do when it reached Allied positions unopposed. A reinforced panzer battalion could smash through defensive lines, destroy supply depots, and kill hundreds of American soldiers before anyone could react. But now they had advance warning, detailed intelligence, and enough time to prepare a response. The mathematics of the situation were brutal but clear. Kampfgruppe Hoffmann represented significant combat power moving toward Allied positions. Left unopposed, they would arrive at their objective with complete tactical surprise. But if Torres could get this intelligence to the right people fast enough, that Panzer Convoy could be intercepted, engaged, and destroyed before they reached friendly forces. The problem was communication. Torres's unit carried only short-range radios designed for reconnaissance work. Reaching friendly artillery positions or air support required relay through higher headquarters, a process that could take hours. Time was the critical factor. The German convoy would depart at 1100 hours. It was now 9:20. Torres calculated distances, radio relay delays, and response times in his head. Even if he could reach friendly forces immediately, organizing an effective ambush against 68 vehicles required coordination between artillery, air support, and ground units. The window was closing fast, and American doctrine wasn't designed for this kind of rapid response. Before we continue, I'd love to know where you're watching from and what you know about World War II radio warfare. Drop a comment below and let me know if you'd heard about radio intercept operations like this before. And if you're enjoying these deep dives into untold military history, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next one. These stories take serious research to uncover the details that most history books overlook. Torres made his decision in 30 seconds. Instead of following standard procedure and reporting through channels, he would contact every Allied unit within radio range simultaneously. Artillery positions, fighter squadrons, tank destroyers, infantry companies. Anyone who could contribute to stopping that Panzer Convoy would receive the intelligence directly. It was against regulations, violated communication security protocols, and could result in court-martial. But it was also the only way to turn intercepted intelligence into tactical advantage fast enough to matter. Mackenzie began broadcasting on multiple frequencies, his voice calm and professional as he transmitted the most critical intelligence of his military career. Artillery fire direction centers responded first, requesting confirmation and coordinate verification. Fighter control acknowledged, asking for target identification and timing windows. Tank destroyer units copied the transmission, calculating intercept routes and positioning requirements. Within 15 minutes, Torres had coordinated the largest impromptu ambush operation of the Western Front. The plan that emerged was elegant in its simplicity. Artillery would target the convoy's lead and rear elements at predetermined choke points, trapping the Germans in a narrow section of forest road. Fighter bombers would attack from above, targeting the panzer tanks with armor-piercing rockets and bombs. Tank destroyer units would position along escape routes, engaging any vehicles that attempted to withdraw. The entire ambush would unfold in stages, each element timed to maximize destruction while preventing German forces from organizing effective resistance. But coordinating this operation required precise timing and flawless communication. The convoy would enter the ambush zone at approximately 12:30 hours based on their reported schedule. Artillery needed 15 minutes to register on target areas. Fighter bombers required 20 minutes flight time from their forward airstrips. Tank destroyer units were already moving to intercept positions, but needed 30 minutes to reach effective firing positions. Every element had to arrive exactly when needed, or the ambush would fail catastrophically. Mackenzie continued monitoring German radio traffic as Allied forces moved into position. The enemy convoy was proceeding exactly on schedule, their radio operator providing regular updates on their progress through predetermined checkpoints. 68 vehicles moving through narrow forest roads in perfect tactical formation, completely unaware that their own communications had betrayed them. The German commander was following doctrine precisely, maintaining radio contact with higher headquarters and reporting his unit's position every 15 minutes. At 11:45 hours, Mackenzie intercepted another transmission that changed everything. A second German radio operator, this one experienced and professional, had replaced the nervous operator who'd been broadcasting in clear. The new operator immediately recognized the security violation and began implementing proper communication procedures, coded transmissions, frequency changes, radio silence protocols. The intelligence window was closing, but Allied forces were already committed to the ambush. Torres realized they had one more critical advantage. Mackenzie could continue monitoring German communications and provide real-time updates to Allied forces as the ambush unfolded. The radio operator who'd accidentally revealed the convoy's plans could now guide the attack by intercepting German tactical communications during the battle itself. It was unprecedented coordination between intelligence gathering and combat operations, made possible by one soldier's ability to turn enemy mistakes into Allied advantages. The forest grew quiet as 12:30 hours approached. Somewhere in the trees, American artillery crews waited beside their guns, coordinates already plotted and firing solutions calculated. Fighter pilots circled at high altitude, watching for the signal to dive on their targets. Tank destroyer crews peered through their sights, positioned along roads the Germans didn't know existed. And in a concealed observation post, Corporal James Mackenzie adjusted his radio one final time, preparing to guide the most devastating ambush in the history of armored warfare. At 12:32 hours, the first German vehicles appeared through the morning mist. Mackenzie watched through binoculars as the convoy stretched along the forest road like a steel serpent. Panzer IV tanks led the formation, their commanders standing in open hatches, scanning the tree line for threats they would never see coming. Behind them rolled assault guns, half-tracks loaded with infantry, supply trucks carrying ammunition and fuel. 68 vehicles moving in perfect tactical spacing, following the route their own radio operator had broadcast 3 hours earlier. Mackenzie keyed his radio and whispered into the handset. "Thunderbolt Base, this is Overwatch. Target convoy entering kill zone now. Lead element at checkpoint Alpha. Estimate 45 seconds to optimal firing position." His voice carried across multiple frequencies simultaneously, reaching artillery crews, fighter pilots, and tank destroyer commanders positioned throughout the forest. The largest coordinated ambush of the war was about to unfold, guided by intercepted radio transmissions and executed with surgical precision. The German convoy commander, Oberst Heinrich Hoffmann, stood in his command half-track, studying terrain maps. The 47-year-old veteran had fought in Poland, France, and Russia. He understood forest warfare, knew the dangers of narrow roads and limited visibility, but his intelligence briefings had indicated minimal Allied presence in this sector. The route through the Ardennes was supposed to be secure, a quiet movement through friendly territory to reinforce positions further east. His radio operator had confirmed clear communications with higher headquarters throughout the morning. What Hoffmann didn't know was that his new radio operator, Feldwebel Klaus Weber, was frantically trying to determine why his predecessor had been relieving of duty so suddenly. The previous operator, Gefreiter Hans Müller, had been young, inexperienced, and terrified of making mistakes. In his nervousness, Müller had broadcast detailed movement orders without encryption, violated communication security protocols, and potentially compromised the entire operation. Weber had discovered the security violations only after assuming radio duties, but by then, the convoy was already committed to the route. Mackenzie intercepted Weber's attempts to contact higher headquarters about the communication breach. The German radio operator was trying to report security violations and request guidance about potential compromise. But Wehrmacht communication procedures were rigid, hierarchical, and slow. Weber's reports would take hours to reach decision-makers and even longer to result in tactical changes. The German convoy was trapped by their own bureaucracy, moving toward destruction while their own headquarters remained unaware of the danger. At 12:34 hours, American artillery opened fire with devastating accuracy. The first salvo targeted the convoy's lead vehicles, 155mm shells screaming through the forest canopy to explode among the advance guard. The lead Panzer IV disappeared in a massive fireball as high explosive rounds found their mark. The second tank swerved to avoid debris and struck a roadside mine that American engineers had positioned based on Mackenzie's intercepted coordinates. The explosion flipped the 30-ton tank onto its side, blocking the narrow road completely. Simultaneously, artillery targeted the convoy's rear elements, trapping the German vehicles in a 2-kilometer stretch of forest road with no escape routes. Supply trucks erupted in flames as incendiary rounds ignited fuel and ammunition. Infantry half-tracks were torn apart by air-bursting shells that sent deadly fragments through thin armor plating. Within 90 seconds, the convoy's lead and trailing elements were destroyed, creating an immobile target for the next phase of the ambush. Mackenzie continued intercepting German radio traffic as chaos erupted around the trapped convoy. Weber was broadcasting frantic requests for air support, artillery assistance, and immediate withdrawal authorization. But his transmissions revealed critical tactical information that Mackenzie immediately relayed to Allied forces. German casualty reports, ammunition status, vehicle positions, and command decisions were intercepted and translated in real time, giving American forces perfect intelligence about enemy responses to the ambush. Fighter bombers arrived exactly on schedule, diving through the forest canopy with armor-piercing rockets and 500-pound bombs. Republic P-47 Thunderbolts attacked in sequence, each pilot guided to specific targets by Mackenzie's radio intercepts of German positions. The remaining Panzer IV tanks found themselves under attack from above, their thick frontal armor useless against bombs dropping through thin roof plates. One by one, the German tanks were systematically destroyed by pilots who knew exactly where to find them. Oberst Hoffmann realized his convoy was being annihilated by forces that seemed to anticipate his every move. American artillery struck his vehicles moments after they reached predetermined positions. Fighter aircraft appeared over targets just as his crews attempted to establish defensive positions. Tank destroyer units engaged his vehicles along routes he hadn't even considered using for withdrawal. The ambush was too coordinated, too precise, too perfectly timed to be coincidental. The German commander grabbed Weber's radio handset and began broadcasting withdrawal orders to surviving elements of his convoy. But Mackenzie was monitoring those frequencies, translating Hoffmann's commands as quickly as they were transmitted, and relaying German intentions to American forces in real time. When Hoffmann ordered his remaining tanks to break through Allied positions to the north, American tank destroyers were already moving to block that route. When he directed infantry to establish defensive positions in a forest clearing, American artillery was adjusting fire onto those exact coordinates. Mackenzie watched through his binoculars as the ambush reached its climactic phase. American M-36 tank destroyers emerged from concealed positions along the forest roads, their 90mm guns engaging German armor at point-blank range. The high-velocity armor-piercing rounds punched through Panzer IV side armor like paper, destroying the remaining German tanks in rapid succession. Infantry squads moved through the forest, systematically clearing pockets of resistance with grenades and automatic weapons. The radio intercepts revealed the full scope of the disaster unfolding around the German convoy. Weber's increasingly desperate transmissions painted a picture of complete tactical collapse. 68 vehicles reduced to burning wreckage, 300 German soldiers killed or wounded, ammunition supplies destroyed, fuel trucks obliterated, medical vehicles targeted. The reinforced Panzer battalion that was supposed to strengthen German defenses had been eliminated before reaching their objective. But Mackenzie's most important intercept came at 12:47 hours, when he heard Weber attempting to contact other German units in the area. The radio operator was warning friendly forces about sophisticated American ambush techniques, coordinated multi-unit attacks, and apparent Allied intelligence about German movement plans. These transmissions revealed the locations of additional German units, their communication frequencies, and their planned movements in response to the convoy's destruction. Torres realized they had stumbled into something far larger than a single ambush. Mackenzie's radio intercepts were providing intelligence about German force dispositions across the entire sector. Enemy unit locations, command structures, communication networks, and tactical plans were being broadcast by German operators who assumed their communications were secure. One radio operator's mistake had opened a window into German military operations that extended far beyond a single Panzer convoy. The systematic destruction of Kampfgruppe Hoffmann was complete by 1300 hours. 68 German vehicles had been reduced to smoking wreckage scattered along 3 kilometers of forest road. American casualties were minimal, limited to a few artillery crew members wounded by German counter-battery fire. The ambush had achieved perfect tactical success through unprecedented coordination between intelligence gathering and combat operations. Mackenzie continued monitoring German radio frequencies as Wehrmacht units throughout the sector responded to the convoy's destruction. Emergency communications revealed German assessment of American capabilities, plans for reinforcing threatened positions, and concerns about communication security that had allowed such devastating Allied success. Each intercepted transmission provided additional intelligence that American forces could exploit in future operations. The intelligence windfall continued as German units across the Ardennes sector scrambled to respond to the catastrophic loss of Kampfgruppe Hoffmann. Mackenzie's headphones crackled with panicked transmissions from Wehrmacht commanders demanding explanations, requesting reinforcements, and attempting to establish new communication protocols. Each intercepted message revealed additional enemy positions, troop strengths, and tactical intentions that American forces could exploit immediately. At 13:15 hours, Mackenzie intercepted a transmission that made him grab Torres's shoulder. A German divisional headquarters was broadcasting orders for 2 additional panzer companies to investigate the convoy's destruction and secure the ambush site. The transmission included departure times, route designations, and the exact coordinates where these reinforcements would establish their command post. Weber's replacement at divisional level was making the same catastrophic mistakes that had doomed the original convoy. Torres studied the new intelligence with growing excitement. The German response was predictable, methodical, and completely vulnerable to interception. Wehrmacht doctrine called for immediate investigation of lost units, reinforcement of threatened positions, and establishment of secure communications. But their communication security remained fatally compromised, giving American forces perfect intelligence about every German move before it happened. Mackenzie began coordinating a second ambush, even as smoke still rose from the first. The incoming German reinforcements would follow predictable routes through the forest, establish command positions at tactically obvious locations, and maintain radio contact with higher headquarters throughout their movement. American forces could position themselves along the German approach routes, prepare firing positions overlooking enemy command posts, and coordinate attacks timed to the enemy's own schedule. The psychological impact on German forces was becoming evident through intercepted radio traffic. Unit commanders who had lost contact with Kampfgruppe Hoffmann were reporting concerns about Allied intelligence capabilities, sophisticated ambush techniques, and possible communication security breaches. Some German operators were requesting permission to implement radio silence protocols, but their requests were being denied by higher headquarters that needed constant updates on tactical situations. Weber's frantic transmissions painted a picture of complete tactical confusion within German ranks. The radio operator was simultaneously trying to coordinate medical evacuation for convoy survivors, request artillery support against American positions, and warn friendly units about sophisticated Allied ambush capabilities. His broadcasts revealed German casualty figures, ammunition shortages, and tactical assessments that American intelligence officers would normally spend weeks trying to obtain. Mackenzie realized they had achieved something unprecedented in military communications warfare. One intercepted transmission had cascaded into a comprehensive intelligence breakthrough that was providing real-time access to German tactical planning across an entire sector. Enemy units were essentially broadcasting their own targeting information to American forces who could respond faster than German commanders could adapt. The second German force, Panzer Company Brandt, departed their assembly area at 13:45 hours, exactly as their intercepted orders had indicated. Mackenzie monitored their progress through predetermined checkpoints, relaying their positions to American artillery crews who were already registered on likely German positions. The enemy reinforcements were driving into a kill zone that had been prepared specifically for them using intelligence from their own radio transmissions. Captain Ernst Brandt commanded the relief force with growing unease about the mission. The 34-year-old tank commander had received fragmentary reports about Kampfgruppe Hoffmann's destruction, but the details were disturbing. An entire reinforced battalion eliminated in less than 30 minutes suggested American capabilities far beyond normal tactical expectations. His intelligence briefing had mentioned possible Allied Special Operations Forces, coordinated multi-unit attacks, and sophisticated ambush techniques that Wehrmacht forces hadn't encountered previously. What Brandt didn't know was that his own radio operator was broadcasting detailed movement reports every 10 minutes, providing American forces with perfect tracking information about his company's approach to the ambush site. Feldwebel Schmidt was following standard Wehrmacht communication procedures, maintaining contact with divisional headquarters and reporting tactical progress as required. But those transmissions were being intercepted, translated, and relayed to American forces faster than they reached German commanders. Mackenzie intercepted Schmidt's latest position report and calculated arrival times for the German reinforcements. Panzer Company Brandt would reach the original ambush site at approximately 14:30 hours, exactly when American forces would be ready for them. Artillery crews had shifted their firing positions to engage targets along the reinforcement route. Fighter aircraft were being redirected from other missions to provide close air support. Tank destroyer units were repositioning to block German escape routes. The coordination required for this second ambush was even more complex than the first. American forces were operating across a wider area, engaging multiple German units simultaneously, and adapting their tactics based on real-time intelligence from intercepted radio communications. Mackenzie had become the central nervous system of a sophisticated military operation that was turning German communication procedures into their greatest vulnerability. At 14:25 hours, American artillery opened fire on Panzer Company Brandt with the same devastating accuracy that had destroyed the original convoy. The first salvos targeted the company's lead tanks at predetermined coordinates, creating an impassable roadblock that trapped the remaining vehicles in another narrow section of forest road. Captain Brandt's command tank was destroyed in the opening minutes of the engagement, eliminating German tactical coordination before effective resistance could be organized. Mackenzie continued intercepting German radio traffic as the second ambush unfolded. Schmidt's increasingly desperate transmissions revealed German tactical responses, casualty reports, and requests for immediate support that American forces could anticipate and counter. When surviving German tanks attempted to establish defensive positions, their coordinates were broadcast by their own radio operators and immediately targeted by American artillery. When German infantry tried to establish escape routes through the forest, their movements were reported by their own commanders and blocked by American ground forces. The systematic destruction of Panzer Company Brandt followed the same pattern as the original convoy. Coordinated artillery strikes eliminated German mobility. Fighter aircraft attacked remaining armor with precision, guided by intercepted intelligence. Tank destroyer units engaged targets whose positions were revealed by German radio transmissions. Within 45 minutes, the second German force had been completely eliminated, using intelligence provided by their own communication procedures. Torres realized they had created a tactical feedback loop that was feeding on German communication doctrine. Every Wehrmacht response to American attacks generated radio traffic that revealed additional intelligence about German capabilities, positions, and intentions. American forces could use this intelligence to plan additional operations that would generate more German radio traffic, creating an expanding cycle of intelligence gathering and tactical exploitation. Mackenzie intercepted transmissions indicating that German divisional headquarters was beginning to recognize the scope of their communication security failure. Senior commanders were demanding explanations for the loss of 2 major armored units within 3 hours. Intelligence officers were requesting immediate implementation of radio silence protocols. Communication specialists were attempting to identify potential Allied intercept capabilities that could account for such devastating tactical intelligence. By 1600 hours, the forest fell silent, except for the crackling flames consuming what remained of 128 German vehicles. Mackenzie removed his headphones and looked at the intelligence reports spread across his position. One nervous radio operator's mistake had cascaded into the complete destruction of 2 Panzer units and provided American forces with unprecedented access to Wehrmacht tactical communications. The intercepted transmissions revealed something that would change Allied intelligence operations for the remainder of the war. Sometimes the most devastating weapons aren't the ones that explode, but the ones that listen. The next time you hear static on a radio, remember Corporal Mackenzie adjusting his frequency dial in that Ardennes forest. One intercepted signal didn't just ambush a convoy, it demonstrated that information warfare could be more lethal than any tank or artillery piece ever built.